Ambassador Elena Vasquez stared at the holographic message floating above her desk. The blue light cast strange shadows across her office aboard the diplomatic station, orbiting Proxima Centauri. She had read the message 3 times, but the words still felt unreal. The Galactic Council was summoning humanity to answer for their crimes. Elena rubbed her tired eyes and looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. 300 years ago, humans had first left Earth and discovered they were not alone in the universe. The galaxy was full of life, ruled by an ancient council of 12 powerful alien species. At first, humans had been welcomed as curious newcomers. They were given a few systems to call home and told to behave themselves, but humans never were good at following rules. The message began to play again automatically. A tall, silver-skinned Altarian appeared in the hologram. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he spoke in the universal trade language that all species used for formal communications. By order of the Galactic Council, the species known as humans are hereby charged with territorial aggression, environmental destruction, and violation of established colonization protocols, the alien said. His voice was cold and official. You have spread across the outer rim like a plague, taking worlds that do not belong to you. You terraform planets without regard for existing life. You build weapons when you should build peace. Elena had heard these complaints before. Humans did tend to change things wherever they went. They could not help themselves. If they found a dead world, they brought it to life. If they found a dangerous world, they made it safe. If they found a world with hostile creatures, they either tamed them or moved them somewhere better. The aliens called it barbaric. Humans called it progress. The Council has reached a unanimous decision, the hologram continued. Humanity must withdraw to a designated reservation zone of 50 systems within 1 standard galactic year. Any human presence beyond these boundaries after that time will be considered an act of war. You will cease all terraforming activities immediately. You will surrender all weapons of mass destruction to Council oversight. The image of the Altarian flickered for a moment before continuing. This is not a negotiation. This is a command. The combined might of 12 ancient civilizations stands behind this decree. Do not test our resolve, the message ended, leaving Elena alone with the silence of space. She reached for her communicator and opened a channel to Earth. It would take several minutes for her message to reach home, and several more for a reply to come back. But this was too important to delay. Priority Alpha message to the Colonial Defense Command, she said into the device. The Council has issued their ultimatum. They want us confined to 50 systems within 1 year. Request immediate consultation with Admiral Chen and the Security Council. While she waited for a response, Elena walked to her bookshelf and pulled out an old paper book. It was a gift from her grandfather, who had been one of the first human explorers to make contact with alien life. The book was a collection of human history, from the ancient civilizations of Earth to the early days of space exploration. She opened it to a page she had marked long ago. It was a quote from an old Earth leader. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Her grandfather had underlined those words in red ink. Humans had learned that lesson well over the past 3 centuries. The communicator buzzed. Admiral Chen Wei-Ming appeared on the small screen, his weathered face showing no surprise at the news. Elena, we received your message, he said. The Council finally made their move. Are you surprised? Not surprised, Elena replied. But I am concerned about their confidence. They seem certain we will submit without a fight. Admiral Chen smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. They have reason to be confident. 12 species, thousands of worlds, millions of ships. On paper, they outgun us by a factor of 10,000 to 1. On paper, Elena repeated. What about off paper? Off paper is where things get interesting, the Admiral said. How much do you know about the Kepler Protocol? Elena frowned. She had heard whispers about something called Kepler, but the details were classified far above her security level. Only rumors. The rumors are probably close to the truth, Admiral Chen said. For 300 years, the Council has seen us as primitives who got lucky with faster-than-light travel. They think we are violent barbarians who need to be controlled. They are not entirely wrong about the violent part. The Admiral paused and looked directly into the camera. But they are completely wrong about how smart we are. Elena, I want you to request a formal audience with the full Council. Tell them we wish to discuss the terms of our surrender. Surrender? Elena could not hide her shock. Admiral, with respect, humanity has never surrendered to anyone. Exactly, Admiral Chen said. That is what will make this so interesting. Tell them we want to negotiate the details of our withdrawal. Ask for a meeting on neutral ground, somewhere public where all 12 council species will attend. Elena stared at the screen. What are you planning? I am planning to show them something they have never seen before, the Admiral replied. A human who knows when he is beaten. They will find it so fascinating that they will not be able to resist the opportunity to humiliate us in person. And then, Admiral Chen's smile grew wider. And then we will remind them why they were afraid of us in the first place. The connection ended, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. She looked out at the stars again, knowing that somewhere among them 12 alien civilizations were preparing for war. They had spent thousands of years conquering other species. They had technology that humans were only beginning to understand. They had weapons that could destroy entire star systems, but they had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity 300 years to prepare. Elena opened a new communication channel and began composing a message to the Galactic Council. She would request the meeting Admiral Chen wanted. She would play the role of the defeated human, ready to negotiate surrender. But as she typed, she remembered another quote from her grandfather's book. This one was from an ancient human warrior. Know your enemy and know yourself, and you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Humanity had spent 3 centuries learning everything they could about their alien neighbors. They had studied their technology, their culture, their weaknesses, and their fears. They had prepared for this day since the moment they first learned they were not alone in the universe. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive barbarians. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Elena finished her message and sent it into the void. Within hours it would reach the Council homeworlds. Within days they would respond with a time and place for humanity's surrender. What they did not know was that humanity had no intention of surrendering. They had something much more interesting in mind outside her viewport. The stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift forever. The day the Galaxy Council challenged humanity's domain had begun, and humanity was ready. Admiral Chen Wei-Ming stood at the center of the Grand Council chamber on Kepler 442b. The barren planet had been chosen specifically because it held no value to any species. Its gray surface stretched endlessly under a dim red sun, making it the perfect neutral ground for what the aliens believed would be humanity's surrender. The chamber itself was a massive dome of transparent aluminum, allowing all present to see the desolate landscape beyond. 12 thrones arranged in a circle dominated the space, each designed for a different alien species. The Altarians sat tall and silver in their crystalline chairs. The insectoid Vex clustered together on their hive platform. The gaseous nebulans floated in their containment spheres. Admiral Chen walked slowly around the circle, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore a simple human military uniform, dark blue with minimal decorations. Compared to the elaborate robes and exotic technologies of the council members, he looked almost primitive. That was exactly what he wanted. Honored Council, Chen began, his voice carrying clearly in the chamber's perfect acoustics. I come before you today to discuss humanity's compliance with your territorial decree. The Altarian Prime Speaker, Zix4471, gestured with one of his 4 arms. There is nothing to discuss, human. You will withdraw to your assigned systems or face annihilation. These are the only terms. Of course, Chen replied with a slight bow. Humanity recognizes the wisdom of the Council's decision. We are, after all, a young species. We have much to learn from our elders. Several council members shifted in their seats. They had expected anger, defiance, perhaps even an attack. This calm acceptance was unexpected. However, Chen continued, still walking slowly around the circle, we do have some questions about the logistics of such a massive relocation. 300 years of expansion cannot be undone overnight. The Vex Queen clicked her mandibles impatiently. That is your problem, not ours. Find a way or we will find one for you. Naturally, Chen said, but surely the Council in its vast experience can offer guidance. After all, you have managed such relocations before. The Centauri Wars of 2847, for example. You moved the entire Helix civilization to new worlds in just 6 months. Silence fell over the chamber. The Helix Wars had been classified council business. No outside species should know those details. The Drakmari war leader leaned forward on his throne. How do you know about the Helix relocation? Chen smiled and stopped walking. He was now standing directly in front of the Drakmari throne. Oh, we know many things. For instance, we know that the Drakmari military doctrine favors overwhelming force applied at strategic resource points. Your latest war games involved simulated attacks on mining colonies in the Vega sector. The war leader's scaled face darkened. Those exercises were conducted in secret in Drakmari space. Yes, they were, Chen agreed. He turned to face another throne. Just as the Altarian research into quantum tunneling weapons is conducted in secret. Fascinating work, by the way. The preliminary results suggest you could punch holes through ship hulls from several light years away. Prime Speaker Zix4471 rose from his crystalline chair. This is impossible. Our research facilities are protected by the most advanced security in the galaxy. They are indeed well protected, Chen said. He continued his walk, now stopping before the Vex platform. Almost as well protected as the Vex genetic archives. Did you know that your queen-in-waiting has developed a new strain of warrior drones? Remarkable creatures, capable of surviving in hard vacuum for up to 6 months. The Vex Queen's entire swarm began buzzing in agitation. The genetic archives were buried deep in the heart of Vex space, guarded by layers of security that had never been breached. One by one, Chen moved around the circle, casually mentioning classified information from each species, military secrets, research projects, diplomatic communications that should have been impossible for humans to access. With each revelation, the council members grew more disturbed. How? The Nebulan Collective finally whispered, their gaseous forms swirling frantically in their containment sphere. How do you know these things? Chen stopped walking and stood in the center of the circle. For the first time since entering the chamber, his expression grew serious. Because we have been watching you, he said simply. For 300 years we have been learning everything we can about our galactic neighbors. Not just your technology or your military capabilities. We have studied your cultures, your languages, your ways of thinking. The chamber erupted in angry voices from a dozen different species. Chen waited patiently for them to quiet down before continuing. Did you really think we spent 3 centuries simply building colonies and terraforming worlds? He asked. Every human world you allowed us to settle became a training ground. Every trade mission became an intelligence-gathering operation. Every cultural exchange was an opportunity to learn. He gestured to the empty space around him. You see, the council made a fundamental error in judgment about humanity. You assumed we were like other species you had conquered. You thought we would be content to stay in our assigned corner of the galaxy, grateful for whatever scraps you threw us. The Altarian Prime Speaker found his voice first. You dare to threaten the combined might of 12 civilizations? Threaten? Chen looked genuinely surprised. I have made no threats. I am simply explaining why your ultimatum is, problematic. He began walking again, but his pace was different now. Predatory. You see, the problem is not that we refuse to withdraw to 50 systems. The problem is that we are not sure we can find 50 systems that do not already have humans living on them. The war leader's claws extended from his fingers. Explain. 300 years is a long time, Chen said. Long enough for human explorers to reach every corner of the galaxy. Long enough for human traders to establish relationships with species you have never heard of. Long enough for human settlers to build new lives on worlds you thought were empty. He stopped before the Vex platform again. Long enough for human children to be born and raised in alien cultures, learning alien ways, becoming part of alien societies. The implications of his words sank in slowly. The council members began to understand what Chen was telling them. You cannot mean, the Nebulan Collective began. I mean exactly that, Chen replied. How many of your own people are actually human? How many of your trusted advisors, your military officers, your researchers and technicians have human ancestors? How many children in your schools, workers in your factories, soldiers in your armies carry human DNA? The chamber fell silent except for the whisper of air recyclers and the distant howl of wind across Kepler 442b's barren surface. 300 years, Chen repeated. Long enough for humans to do what humans do best. Adapt, integrate, become part of whatever community we find ourselves in. He returned to the center of the circle and looked up at each throne in turn. So yes, honored council, humanity will comply with your territorial decree. We will withdraw from any world where we are not welcome. But first we need you to help us identify exactly which humans need to be relocated. Chen pulled a small device from his pocket and activated it. Holographic displays filled the air around him, showing star charts, population centers, and genetic analysis data. Shall we start with the Altarian core worlds? According to our records, approximately 12% of your population has some human ancestry, or perhaps the Vex breeding colonies. The genetic markers are quite distinctive once you know what to look for. The Admiral smiled, and for the first time it was not a pleasant expression. The real question, honored council, is not whether humanity will withdraw from the galaxy. The question is whether you can survive the withdrawal. The silence stretched on as the 12 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had not been dealing with a primitive species that could be easily controlled. They had been dealing with humanity, and humanity had been preparing for this day for 300 years. The council meeting ended in chaos. Within hours of Admiral Chen's revelations, 12 different alien fleets began mobilizing across the galaxy. Ancient war machines that had slept for centuries awakened. Weapons that could crack planets were loaded and aimed at human space. The Altarian Prime Speaker returned to his homeworld and immediately ordered genetic screening of his entire population. The results terrified him. Humans had indeed integrated into Altarian society over 3 centuries. They worked in government buildings, military bases, research facilities. Some had risen to positions of significant authority. Similar discoveries were being made across council space. The Vex found human genetic markers in their breeding pools. The Drakmari discovered that several of their most decorated war leaders had human ancestry. The Nebulans learned that some of their collective consciousness included human minds. But the aliens had one advantage that gave them confidence. Numbers. Let them hide among our populations. War leader Krath declared to his assembled fleet commanders, "We will burn them out with the rest of the humans. 12 civilizations against 1. The mathematics are simple. The Drakmari fleet was the largest in the galaxy. 5,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a human city with a single shot. Behind them came the Altarian crystal ships, their hulls gleaming like diamonds in the void. The Vex contributed their hive ships, massive organic vessels that swarmed with warrior drones. One by one, the council fleets gathered at the edge of human space. Their plan was brutally simple. They would attack 12 major human colonies simultaneously, demonstrating their overwhelming power. Humanity would have no choice but to surrender or face complete annihilation. What they did not expect was for the humans to fight back. On Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the war room deep beneath the Colonial Defense Command. Around him, holographic displays showed the movement of alien fleets throughout the galaxy. His staff officers waited for orders, their faces grim but determined. "Status report," Chen said calmly. Colonel Sarah Martinez, his chief intelligence officer, stepped forward. "All council fleets are moving as predicted. They should reach the target colonies within 72 hours. And our people? Evacuation of the target colonies is 90% complete. The remaining 10% are volunteers who insisted on staying to operate the defensive systems." Chen nodded. He had expected as much. Humans rarely abandoned their homes without a fight. "What about Operation Deeproot?" Martinez smiled for the first time in weeks. "All cells are in position and ready to activate. The aliens have no idea what is coming." Chen turned to another officer. "Commander Singh, report on Project Genesis." Commander Raj Singh was a tall man with cybernetic implants covering half his face. The technology was a blend of human engineering and alien biotechnology, acquired through 3 centuries of careful study. "The new generation is ready for deployment," Singh reported. 200,000 enhanced soldiers, genetically modified for operation in any environment. They can breathe methane like the Vex, survive in the vacuum of space like the Nebulans, and see across the electromagnetic spectrum like the Drakmari. And their psychological conditioning? Complete. Each soldier has been trained to think like multiple alien species. They understand Council military doctrine better than most Council officers. Chen walked to the central display and stared at the approaching alien fleets. To most observers, it looked hopeless. 12 civilizations with millions of ships against humanity's few thousand vessels. But Chen knew something the aliens did not. This was not going to be a traditional war. "Gentlemen," he said to his staff, 300 years ago, Humanity learned that we were not alone in the universe. We also learned that our new neighbors were not particularly friendly. They tolerated us as long as we stayed in our corner and did not cause trouble. He turned to face his officers. But humanity has never been good at staying quiet. We explored. We learned. We adapted. And most importantly, we prepared. Chen activated the central display, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked council worlds. Blue dots showed human colonies, but there were also green dots scattered throughout council space, far more numerous than either red or blue. "What are the green markers?" asked a young lieutenant. Colonel Martinez answered. "Those are humans who have been living in council space for generations. Our deep cover agents, but also families who have built legitimate lives among alien populations. Some of them do not even know they have human ancestry." "How many?" the lieutenant asked. "Conservative estimate. 2 billion humans living throughout the galaxy, most of them in council space." The lieutenant stared at the display in shock. 2 billion? Humans are very good at making more humans, Chen said with a slight smile. Even in alien environments. Especially in alien environments. He activated another layer on the display. Now yellow lines connected the green dots, showing communication networks, supply routes, and coordination paths. For 3 centuries, these humans have been our eyes and ears. They have learned alien languages, alien customs, alien ways of thinking. Many of them have become trusted members of alien communities. Some have risen to positions of authority. The reality of humanity's situation began to dawn on the assembled officers. This was not a war between separate civilizations. This was a civil war within galactic civilization itself. "The Council thinks they are fighting humanity," Chen continued, "but they are actually fighting themselves. Every alien world has humans living on it. Every alien fleet has humans serving in it. Every alien government has humans working in it." He gestured to the display. "When the shooting starts, how will they know who to shoot at?" The question hung in the air as the implications became clear. The aliens had superior technology in greater numbers, but they also had an enemy that was already inside their defenses, integrated into their societies and prepared to strike from within. "What are your orders, sir?" Colonel Martinez asked. Chen studied the display for a long moment. The alien fleets were still hours away from human space, but across the galaxy, 2 billion humans were waiting for the signal to act. "Send the activation codes to all deep cover cells," he said finally. "Operation Deep Root is authorized to begin immediately." "And the colonies under attack?" "Let them come," Chen replied. "The Council wants to see how humans fight when cornered. We will show them." He turned back to the display and watched as yellow dots began lighting up across the galaxy. In 1,000 different alien cities, humans were receiving their orders. Scientists in research facilities, engineers in shipyards, soldiers in military bases, government workers in administrative buildings. For 300 years, they had lived quiet lives among alien populations. They had raised families, built careers, and become part of their adopted communities. But they had never forgotten who they were or where they came from. Now it was time to remind the galaxy that humanity had never really left Earth. They had simply spread Earth throughout the galaxy. "Signal. All human fleets," Chen ordered. "Begin withdrawal to secondary positions. Let the Council think they are winning." "And then?" Admiral Chen smiled. And it was the expression of a predator who had been patient for far too long. "And then we show them what 300 years of preparation can accomplish." The Council wanted to challenge humanity's domain. They are about to discover that humanity's domain is not a collection of worlds or star systems. He gestured to the green dots filling the galactic display. Humanity's domain is people, and people are everywhere. Outside, the alien fleets continued their approach to human space, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had no idea that the war had already begun, and they were already losing. The first shots of the war were fired at exactly 14:30 Galactic Standard Time. 12 Council fleets struck 12 human colonies simultaneously, their weapons lighting up the void with destruction. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains fired at empty buildings. Antimatter torpedoes designed to crack planets hit evacuated cities. War leader Krath watched from his flagship as the human colony of New Brisbane disappeared in a ball of superheated gas. The planet had been home to 3 million humans. Now it was a cooling cinder drifting through space. "Target destroyed," his weapons officer reported. "No survivors detected." Similar reports came in from the other 11 strike fleets. Every targeted human colony had been obliterated. The demonstration of council power was complete and devastating. But something was wrong. War Leader, his communications officer called out, "I am receiving distress signals from the Drakmari homeworld." Krath turned from the viewport where New Brisbane had been. What kind of distress signals? Multiple explosions across the primary industrial complex. The main antimatter production facility has gone critical. The orbital shipyards are reporting systems failures. Before Krath could respond, more reports flooded in. The Altarian research station at Proxima Vega had suffered a catastrophic accident. 3 Vex hive worlds were reporting internal rebellions. Nebulan gas mining operations throughout their territory had mysteriously shut down. How is this possible? Krath demanded. Our intelligence showed no human forces near any of these locations. His intelligence chief, a scarred veteran named Gorak, studied the incoming reports with growing alarm. War Leader, these are not external attacks. These incidents are occurring deep within Council space, on worlds that have been secure for centuries. The truth began to dawn on Krath. Admiral Chen's warnings about human infiltration had seemed like desperate bluffs. But if humans had really been living throughout Council space for 3 centuries, get me a direct line to the Altarian fleet. Krath ordered. The holographic image of Prime Speaker Zix4471 appeared before him. The normally composed Altarian looked shaken. War Leader, our homeworld is in chaos, Zix4471 reported. The quantum research facility has been destroyed from within. Someone with high-level security clearance sabotaged the containment systems. Human infiltrators? We are conducting genetic scans now, but... Zix4471 paused. War Leader, the saboteur was my own assistant. She has worked for me for 15 years. She was born on Altair Prime. Her parents were respected citizens. The implications hit Krath like a physical blow. If humans had been integrating into alien societies for 3 centuries, how could anyone tell who was loyal and who was not? All fleets return to your homeworlds immediately, Krath commanded. We have a more urgent crisis than human expansion. But as the Council fleets turned away from human space, the real war began. On Drakmari Prime, Engineer Thak-9 had spent 30 years maintaining the antimatter production systems that powered the Drakmari war machine. His colleagues trusted him completely. His supervisors considered him one of their most reliable workers. None of them knew that Thak-9's grandmother had been human. When the activation codes reached him, Thak-9 felt a moment of sadness. He had lived a good life among the Drakmari. They were not evil people, just proud and warlike. But his loyalty to humanity ran deeper than his affection for his adopted home. The antimatter containment systems required constant monitoring and adjustment. A few subtle changes to the magnetic field generators and the reaction became unstable. Thak-9 made sure to evacuate the surrounding area before the explosion, but the industrial complex was completely destroyed. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen Vex had spent 40 years studying in the Great Vex libraries, her human heritage hidden by careful genetic modifications. When her orders came, she released a virus into the Vex communication networks that turned their own drones against each other. Lieutenant Marcus Webb had served in the Altarian Defense Force for 2 decades, his human ancestry buried in generations of careful record-keeping. He opened the orbital defense stations to a carefully planned pirate attack. That was actually a human special forces operation. The Council had expected to fight humanity's few thousand ships with their millions of vessels. Instead, they found themselves fighting a galaxy-wide insurgency that struck from within their own ranks. Admiral Chen watched the reports flowing in from across the galaxy. Operation Deeproot was proceeding exactly as planned, but he knew the easy victories would not last long. The aliens would adapt just as humans always did. Sir, Colonel Martinez reported, we are receiving surrender offers from 3 Council species. The Altarians, the Centauri Alliance, and the Helix Confederation are requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. Denied, Chen replied without hesitation. This is not about accepting surrender. This is about ending the war permanently. He turned to Commander Singh. Deploy the enhanced forces. Phase 2 begins now. Singh nodded and activated his communicator. All Genesis units, you are cleared for deployment. Rules of engagement are in effect. Minimum necessary force only. Across human space, 200,000 enhanced soldiers received their orders. These were not the hidden infiltrators who had lived among aliens for generations. These were warriors specifically designed for this conflict, genetically modified to operate in any environment, and psychologically trained to understand alien thinking. They moved like ghosts through the void, using captured alien technology and stolen access codes to penetrate Council defenses. But their mission was not destruction. Their mission was precision. On the Vex homeworld, a squad of enhanced humans infiltrated the Queen's personal chambers. They could have killed her easily, but instead they left a simple message. Humanity does not wish to destroy the Vex. We wish to free them from the Council's endless wars. Similar messages appeared throughout Council space. Humans were not trying to conquer alien worlds. They were offering an alternative to the cycle of warfare that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. The psychological impact was devastating. Council military leaders found themselves fighting an enemy that could strike anywhere but chose to show mercy. Human forces could have poisoned atmosphere processors, collapsed orbital stations, or triggered star-killing weapons. Instead, they targeted military assets while protecting civilian populations. War leader Krath returned to Drakmari Prime to find his homeworld in chaos, but not the chaos he had expected. The antimatter facility was destroyed, but the explosion had been carefully controlled to minimize casualties. The orbital shipyards were crippled, but the evacuation procedures had been flawlessly executed. His own forces were turning against each other, as genetic scans revealed human ancestry throughout the military hierarchy. Officers who had served loyally for decades were suddenly under suspicion. Trust, the foundation of any military organization, was evaporating. War leader, his aide reported, "We have confirmed human genetic markers in approximately 8% of our military personnel." 8%? Krath stared at the report in disbelief. How is that possible? Intermarriage over 3 centuries, sir. Humans have been integrating into our society since first contact. Most of these people do not even know they have human ancestors. Krath realized the horrible genius of humanity's strategy. They had not conquered the galaxy through superior firepower. They had conquered it through something far more powerful: time and patience. For 300 years, humans had been becoming part of galactic civilization. They had not destroyed alien cultures. They had joined them, learned from them, and ultimately transformed them from within. The war was not between humanity and the galaxy. The war was between the old galaxy and the new one that humanity had helped create, and the old galaxy was losing. "Get me a direct communication to Admiral Chen," Krath ordered. "It is time to discuss terms." But as his communications officer worked to establish the connection, Krath knew that humanity would not be satisfied with simple victory. They had demonstrated something that no Council species had ever achieved. They had shown that it was possible to win a war without destroying your enemy. Now they would have to show whether it was possible to build a peace that could last. 6 months after the war began, the Galactic Council formally surrendered. The ceremony took place on the same barren world where Admiral Chen had first revealed humanity's true nature. But now the empty chamber was filled with representatives from over 200 species, not just the 12 that had once ruled the galaxy. War leader Krath stood before the assembly, his proud warrior bearing replaced by something that looked almost like relief. The Drakmari had lost more ships and facilities than any other Council species, but they had also lost the least in terms of lives. Humanity's surgical strikes had been devastating to their military capabilities, but merciful to their people. "The Drakmari war fleet officially surrenders to the human forces," Krath announced. "We acknowledge that the war is over and that we have been defeated." Similar declarations came from the other Council species. The Altarians, the Vex, the Nebulans, and all the rest formally admitted defeat. But as Admiral Chen rose to address the assembly, it became clear that humanity had something unexpected in mind. "Honored delegates," Chen began, "the Galactic Council has surrendered, and we accept that surrender. But humanity does not wish to rule the galaxy. We wish to transform it." A murmur went through the assembled delegates. Many of the smaller species had expected humanity to simply replace the Council as the new galactic overlords. This was how wars had always ended in their experience. "For 3,000 years, Chen continued, this galaxy has been ruled by the principle that might makes right. The strongest species conquered the weaker ones. The most advanced civilizations dominated the primitive ones. War was the primary tool of diplomacy. He gestured to the diverse crowd of delegates. But look around you. This chamber contains species that have never before been allowed to speak as equals. Civilizations that were once conquered slaves are now sitting beside their former masters. How is this possible? Ambassador Elena Vasquez, who had been promoted to humanity's chief diplomatic representative, stood up from her seat. It is possible because humanity discovered something that the old council never understood. True strength does not come from the ability to destroy your enemies. True strength comes from the ability to turn enemies into allies. The Vex Queen clicked her mandibles in what humans had learned was a sign of confusion. But you defeated us completely. Your infiltrators could have destroyed our homeworld. Your enhanced soldiers could have eliminated our leadership. Why did you show mercy? Chen smiled and walked to the center of the chamber, just as he had 6 months earlier. But this time his movements showed no predatory intent. He looked like a teacher addressing his students. Because we learned something from studying your cultures for 3 centuries, he said. We learned that every species, no matter how different from humanity, shares certain fundamental desires. You want safety for your families. You want prosperity for your people. You want a future for your children. He stopped before the Altarian delegation. Prime Speaker Zix4471. Your people have spent the last 1,000 years fighting wars to protect your crystal cities. How many Altarians have died in those wars? The Prime Speaker considered the question carefully. Approximately 12 million over the past millennium. And how many humans have died fighting Altarians? 0, Zix4471 admitted. Until this conflict, humans and Altarians had never been at war. Chen nodded and moved to the Drakmari delegation. War leader Krath, your people believe that strength comes from victory in battle. But what happens when you defeat all your enemies? Krath's scarred face showed puzzlement. You find new enemies to fight. Exactly. The cycle never ends. There is always another war, another threat, another reason to build more weapons and train more soldiers. Chen spread his arms to encompass the entire assembly. But what if there was another way? Elena Vasquez activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed the galaxy as it was today, with trade routes, communication networks, and population centers highlighted in different colors. 300 years ago, when humans first entered galactic society, we had a choice, she said. We could try to conquer our way to security, as every other species had done, or we could try something different. The display zoomed in on various sectors, showing the complex web of relationships that had developed over 3 centuries. Human colonies were connected not just to other human worlds, but to alien civilizations throughout the galaxy. We chose integration, Elena continued. Humans did not just settle empty worlds. We joined existing communities. We learned alien languages, adopted alien customs, married into alien families. We became part of galactic civilization instead of trying to dominate it. The Nebulan Collective swirled in their containment sphere, but the result was the same. You achieved dominance through infiltration instead of conquest. Did we? Chen asked. Let me ask you this. How many humans currently serve in positions of authority throughout the galaxy? Commander Singh, who had been silent until now, provided the answer. Current estimates suggest approximately 50,000 humans hold significant leadership positions in alien governments, military organizations, and commercial enterprises. 50,000 out of a galactic population of 7 trillion, Chen said. That is not dominance. That is participation. The truth of his words began to sink in. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy by placing humans in charge of everything. They had conquered it by becoming an integral part of everything. The old council ruled through fear, Elena explained. They maintained order by threatening destruction to anyone who challenged them. But fear is an exhausting way to govern. It requires constant vigilance, endless military spending, and the willingness to carry out your threats. She gestured to the assembly. Look at this gathering. 200 species sitting together as equals. When has such a thing ever happened before in galactic history? The delegates looked around at each other. Many were natural enemies who had fought bitter wars for centuries. Others had never encountered each other before today. Yet here they were, sharing the same space without violence. Humanity offers a different model, Chen said. Instead of ruling through fear, we propose governing through cooperation. Instead of maintaining order through military force, we suggest building stability through mutual benefit. War leader Krath leaned forward in his seat. You speak of cooperation, but what happens when cooperation fails? What happens when different species have conflicts that cannot be resolved peacefully? It was a fair question, and Chen had expected it. Then we do what humans have always done when faced with impossible problems. We get creative. The holographic display changed to show a detailed proposal for galactic governance. Instead of a ruling council of powerful species, there would be a federation where every species had representation based on population and contribution to galactic society. Conflicts between species would be resolved through arbitration, not warfare, Elena explained. Trade disputes would be handled by economic councils, not battle fleets. Research and exploration would be cooperative efforts that benefit everyone. And if someone refuses to cooperate? Asked the Vex Queen. Chen's expression grew serious. Then they would face the same choice the Council faced 6 months ago. Submit to the will of galactic civilization or be removed from it. The implied threat was clear, but it was backed by demonstrated capability. Humanity had proven they could cripple any species that threatened galactic peace. More importantly, they had proven they could do it without destroying their enemies in the process. The age of the Galactic Council is over, Chen announced. In its place, we propose the Galactic Federation. Every species will have a voice. Every world will have representation. Every citizen will have rights that cannot be taken away by military force. He looked around the chamber one more time. The galaxy challenged humanity's domain 6 months ago. Today we give our answer. Humanity's domain is not territory or resources or military power. Humanity's domain is the idea that different species can live together in peace, prosperity, and mutual respect. The vote was not even close. 197 species voted to join the new federation. Only 3 abstained, and they were small isolationist cultures that preferred to avoid galactic politics entirely. As the delegates filed out of the chamber to begin the complex work of building a new galactic government, Elena Vasquez approached Admiral Chen. "Do you think it will work?" she asked quietly. Chen looked out at the barren landscape of Kepler 442b. 6 months ago, this world had witnessed humanity's moment of greatest vulnerability, when they stood alone against the combined might of 12 ancient civilizations. Today, it had witnessed the birth of something entirely new. "It will work because it has to," Chen replied. "For 3 centuries, humanity has been proving that cooperation is stronger than conquest. Now we have the chance to prove it on a galactic scale." He turned away from the viewport and walked toward the exit. "Besides, we have something the old council never had." "What is that?" Admiral Chen smiled, and for the first time since the war began, it was an expression of pure hope. "We have time, and humans are very good at making the most of time." Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the galaxy had just taken its first steps toward a future that would have been.